It's a teen talk skating podcast where I embarrass myself. Hello, and welcome to episode number 77 of the Teen Talks Game podcast. My name is Van Gogh. I hope you guys are all doing very well. Some updates. I made a Reddit account and I made a Reddit post by myself. I'm really trying to be, connected more, I guess, to everything going on. Hopefully, get some new content to talk about. Hopefully, stay engaged more. Of course, promote the podcast and everything. But I want to really be more active and add more comments and add to all the threads and everything. And so I really want to try to be active on the Reddit. Yeah. But anyway, it's kind of scary because I'm like, oh my god, the internet. I don't know. But I literally do this every week, so I don't really know what I'm scared about. Anyway, it is about a month left before, actually less than a month. It's less than a month until I have to go back to school, unfortunately, which is really crazy to me that the summer's been going by. But I have really been enjoying my summer and working on myself and this podcast and everything. Of course, there's no figure skating during the summer, unfortunately, and so, once the summer ends and I'm going back to school, of course, I'm still gonna upload and everything. But it's gonna be a little bit of a while until the real big important figure skating competitions start, like the Grand Prix and some of the Challenger series that I want to talk about. So keep that in mind. So yeah, these episodes that are more like video essays or whatever are probably going to continue until September era. So that's not too bad. Maybe like 5 more-ish episodes out of this, I will start talking about competitions, but I really try to stay consistent with these uploads. Anywho, hope you guys are all doing very well. Hope work and school and everything is going really well. I hope the summer is being really good. This past week has been like a heat wave or something. Like they've had warning not to go outside. It's like crazy. Like I don't even know. I live in a very hot part of the US. So, not much ice around here for sure. But anyway, let's get to our program of the week before I start ranting too much about the impending doom of the heat wave. Program of the week. Okay, so our program of the week this week is from a skater who I feel like a lot of people forget about. Sometimes not forget about, but I think a lot of people should discuss her more. And that is Paulina Edmonds of the USA. Of course, Paulina Edmonds, she went to the US. She represented the US at the 2014 Olympics, I believe as a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old. It was super crazy, and that was her very much big moment in the figure skating world. And then kind of after that, I feel like a lot of people kind of started forgetting about her, even though she did have a lot of success. And this is one of those programs in one of those seasons after the Olympics that I really do like. And that is her 2015-2016 free skate, specifically performed at the 2016 US Nationals. And that is her free skate set to Gone with the Wind, the soundtrack of the movie, the soundtrack being by Max Steiner. This is a really good program by Paulina Edmonds. I know she was working with Rudy Galindo as her choreographer most of her career, and he is just I think he and Paulina just go well together. Like his choreography of her just hits the spot. The beginning of it, she is facing the camera and she has the most interesting expression in her face. She's so determined, but at the same time, she's very much in the mood of a very not shy, but almost far back character, but then throughout the program, it's like you get to know her more and get to know the passion and the personality more. It's just great. Some of the specific moments of this program, I really like the way she jumps. I know under rotations were a big thing a bit in her career, but the way she kind of snaps in the air is very satisfying, especially on her triple lutz triple toe, for example. Something interesting in this program is that the step sequence is the second element. So she does a triple lutz triple toe, and then she immediately goes into a step sequence, which is definitely a choice, not something you see very often. I can't remember the last time I saw a step sequence super close to the beginning of the program. But yeah, but I really do like the step sequence as a good moment to note because she takes it slow. So many step sequences I feel like are so focused on okay, gotta get this step in, gotta get this rocker, gotta get this bracket, let me do this twizzle real quick. But this is a very slow, I think masterful piece of step sequence. Because she's taking it slow, she has to have innately more control over her blades and over the edges and over the ice. It's a really good craftsmanship show mastery over the ice, I would say. Um, yeah, it's really beautiful. She holds this one edge for a bit. It's almost like a mini spiral moment. It's great. And then she does more of her jumps. She does all her jumps are like she fighting for them. She's not popping them. She's getting through them. Her spins are very satisfying. They feel very centered. They look great. It's just a great program. And then my favorite personal part at the very, very end is the choreo sequence. It's a magical, I think, choreo sequence. She starts off with a huge, and I mean huge spiral, like across the entire ring spiral. Then she skates more into some crossovers to gain some speed. She does a very huge split jump, and then my favorite part is that she does these very slow but big twizzles, if that makes sense. So she's moving across a large portion of the ice with twizzles. It's just so, oh, it's so good. It's just that part is just so good. The outfit as well, I really enjoy the outfit. I love her like curly hair vibe going on, and then she has like a hair ribbon kind of vibe. It's good. And at the very end, she kind of like stands in the ending pose, she releases all that tension, I feel like, and she releases all her like power to the audience. It's just good. Like the choreography, it just feels very detail oriented. It's a great program. So go check it out. Do not let Paulina Edmonds go undermarked. I feel like no one like talks about this program enough. I love it so much. And so you should go check it out. So go check it out. Paulina Edmonds at the 2016 National Free Skate. Also go check out her podcast, which is pretty cool. Anyway, time for your main episode. That was your program of the week. Okay, guys, so we went through the introduction and the program of the week, and now it is time for our main episode. Um, this episode is another series, or another, sorry, part or episode or addition in this series that I kind of started doing out of nowhere for some reason. And I'm doing a series about famous figure skaters who have really made an impact on the sport, on the culture of the sport, on the popularity of the sport, or who are just very notable in the sport for achieving very big things. Particularly their emphasis, obviously, on their legacy and what we can learn from them. That's kind of the main point of these is to summarize their career very briefly and then kind of analyze what led to their success and what I think figure skaters or figure skating fans can learn from their story of success. So check out some of the other episodes. I did an episode based on Yuzuru Hanyu. I think last September, Yuna Kim was in April. Last month, I did an episode on Katarina Witt from Germany. Um, and then I think that was kind of it. That's the only people I've really, really done a deep, deep, deep analysis on. But anyway, this episode we're doing our very first pair or ice dance team. I haven't done this with two people, I guess, ever. And this is a very like monumental or like momentous or important occasion to do this episode because the team I'm discussing here is Jayne Torvill and Christopher Dean of the UK, who were a very, very successful and popular ice dance team from the UK back in the 80s and 90s, who recently had their very last performance together ever. They went on a tour, I think it was called like Our Last Dance Tour, I believe, with Torvill and Dean. And that was their very last time ever doing any type of show skating. That was their last performance. I believe their last performance was on Sunday, I believe, or was it Saturday? Last Saturday or Sunday? I think it was July 12th or something. They skated in Nottingham in the UK, which is their hometown and where they first started skating. So obviously that was a huge moment for them. And yeah, they are done with their careers. I wish them, of course, the very, very best on their retirement, but I'm sure they will continue to be involved in skating somehow. But yeah, that was their last like show skating performance. They're not going to do it again. But yeah, anyway, so again, the point of these episodes is to summarize, analyze, and very much learn from the story of these figure skaters and what they have done to the sport of figure skating, why they became so popular, what lessons of success are there to learn from, etc. And we're going to do that with Jayne Torvill and Christopher Dean. So the first part is always going to be a summary of who they are. I feel like I'm giving like a lesson about like my own lessons, if that makes sense, like a lesson about how to watch each of my episodes. I don't know. But anyway, the sources today are Wikipedia. Don't judge me. Please don't hate me. Don't tell my teachers. And then Torvill and Dean also have their own, official website, as many figure skaters do, as their, very professional website. You can go on their about page or their history page, etc. So who are Jayne Torvill and Christopher Dean? they are among the most decorated figure skaters of all time. Um, they are the most decorated skaters to ever come out of Great Britain, I believe, or at least in recent years, in recent memory. Um, they are the most decorated figure skaters representing Great Britain. They are 7-time British champions, 4-time European champions, 4-time world champions, and they have an Olympic gold from 1984 and an Olympic bronze from 1994. And so, yeah, they obviously have a lot of success. Why do they have so much success? Let's find out together, I guess. And so, yeah, they're very successful and popular figure skaters. I often find that, becoming a successful skater, winning an Olympic gold does not mean you'll be automatically famous, I feel like, in figure skating circles. But I honestly do think that Torvill and Jayne have very much cemented themselves in the history of figure skating, and that fans are still talking about them today. They're still involved in the skating world. Yeah. So I feel like, competition success doesn't always translate into like fame and legacy, but Torvill and Jayne, I think, really does translate to fame and legacy. They've really become a cultural, like, zeitgeist. Am I using that right? I don't know. A cultural topic in figure skating. I often see a lot of comments about them. People still remember very much who they are, even if they stopped skating competitively anyway a long time ago. So their career prior to their 1984 goal, because they didn't just show up at the Olympics and win the gold. They had a huge career, and it's a very interesting career actually, because they did not come from a background of a lot of money, a lot of support initially. They didn't have a lot of sponsorships. They didn't have a lot of financial successes in the beginning. Obviously, in a sport like figure skating, where prize money is not a huge thing, and even if you're winning prize money, it's not a lot of prize money. And if you aren't winning prize money, then that becomes even more of a big issue, because you got to pay for your own things. Um, but I think it's very important to recognize the background where they came from and the success they had training themselves up and supporting themselves for it. But anyway, Jayne Torvill and Christopher Dean are two young people in the world. They meet in Nottingham in 1975, and they start skating together, and they become ice dancers. And ice dance at the time was a not new, but ice dance was a discipline that had just been introduced at the World Figure Skating Championships a couple years back, I believe in the 60s, and it was about to be introduced in the Olympics, I believe, in 1976. So they started skating together in 1975, about 1 year, I believe, before ice dance becomes a thing. I don't remember it being 1980. I believe it's 1976 when ice dance becomes a thing. But all you gotta know is that they didn't go for singles, they didn't go for pairs, they went for ice dance together, which is very new at the time, even though we don't think of ice dance as new. But ice dance at the time was kind of new, kind of different. Not a lot of people were doing it as much, so that's what you gotta know. But they start skating together in 1975, which is very, of course, ancient to a teenager like me. I can imagine what it's like to be 1975. I don't know. I can't. I don't know. I'm like young. I'm a millennial. I'm cool. But anyway, part of the thing, like I said earlier, they came from a background that was not financially successful automatically. They didn't come from very high privileged backgrounds, I guess. They actually had to work a lot through their early career. So Jayne Torvill actually went to work in insurance, and Christopher Dean actually went to work in the police, which obviously I think does highlight the fact that a lot of figure skaters don't have a lot of opportunity. A lot of figure skaters, as we know, even today, 50 years later, are skating with a side job. They're also a babysitter. They're also a skating coach. They also choreograph for young kids, or they also have a completely unrelated career. Like Camden Polkinen of the USA is also like this finance bro at the same time, or they go flip houses. I've heard it all. Like I feel like we've heard it all for sure. But yeah, Jayne Torvill went to work in insurance. Christopher Dean went to work in the police to earn money to support their skating and also obviously their life, as they weren't making a lot of money at the time from skating. There was no full-time skating. They're not full-time skaters at this point in time. Obviously they don't have the financial success to do that. And unfortunately, that's still kind of the reality today. but they eventually get better results. They start off, in the beginning ranks. They start off skating. They start off with, a couple good finishes here and there, but they eventually get better results. Prior to 1980, they get top 10 at Europeans, and then they get a top 10 at Worlds, and then they went to the 1980 Olympics in Lake Placid, and they end up placing fifth there, which is a very good result for an ice dance team that only formed 5 years ago. If we think about it now in terms of ice dance, if you're only formed 5 years ago, like, are you like, it's like hard to think that you'll get an Olympic medal because some of these teams have been together for decades and then they get an Olympic medal. That's how crazy it is, I feel like. But this, big result for them, fifth at the 19th at the Olympics, is their huge result, and they ended up getting enough money from the Nottingham government that they could quit their jobs. And they could continue skating more full time. I believe it's said that they moved to Europe, the European continent, the mainland European continent, to get better ice time. And get this, that after the 1980 Olympics, they won every single event that they entered. They did not drop a single event. They won everything. Gold here, gold there. It was not, they were, no, 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 no. They really were. After that season, they're like, we're not getting second, we're not getting third. God forbid we get another fifth place. Nah, they got first in everything. And because of this, Great Britain at the time did not even have a ton of success in figure skating. They did have some success here and there, but it wasn't a hugely known sport in figure skating. They did, however, you know, as they rose in popularity, rose in um, they rose in popularity, they helped raise the sport in popularity as well. And other skaters at the time, like Robin Cousins of the UK as well, helped increase that awareness for ice and figure skating with his Olympic gold medal in 1980. But however, the 1984 Olympics arrive, and Torvill and Dean are very much the front runners. And they're, first two segments, the compulsory figures and the short dance, rhythm dance, original dance, I don't know what they call it back then, go very, very well. And I believe they're in first place leading up to everything. But their most famous program, of course, is their Bolero free dance. They skate to the music of Bolero by Maurice Ravel. This is a program, I believe, that just no other program has the same just legendary status. If I hear Bolero, I think Torvill and Dean. You cannot like forget about Torvill and Dean skating to this music, if that makes sense. It's like whenever another skater uses Bolero, I feel like there's always that immediate connection to Torvill and Dean. Oh, I remember when Torvill and Dean skated this in 1984. Oh my gosh, this is just a little inspired by Torvill and Dean. It's just such an iconic program. I don't believe that any other program in the history of figure skating is this iconic. That is so, like, people remember it so well. People remember those purple outfits that they wore so well. And I want to analyze why it's just so, like, why is this the program that everyone likes? And this is a program that is very much intricate and very much exquisite and very much different for its time. And so I really want to devote an entire segment of this episode just to analyze and understand why this 1984 Olympics free dance to Bolero is so important. So this is a very much complete and full analysis of it. To describe the program, it is, in my opinion, a very contemporary program. And, in 1984, this contemporary dance style is, different. It's interesting. They start by kneeling on the floor. They kind of lean back, both of them, then they lean forward. They embrace each other, lean back, lean forward. It's like flowers opening up. Eventually, Christopher Dean lifts Jayne Torvill to her feet, and then they show some cool, like, knee sliding moments. They do this cool movement where they are spiraling together, but then they're also, like, spinning around each other. Then Christopher Dean kind of flips her around. Like, it's just so cool. Got some cool, interesting steps. They have moments where they lock legs, and then they start spinning. It's just so cool. There's this first lift with Christopher Dean on one foot, and then Jayne Torvill is hanging on to his other leg. There's a lot of stopping in this program and kind of pivoting on their picks, kind of like tiptoeing on their picks almost. There's a moment where Christopher Dean like just lifts Jayne Torvill right up into the air. There's a moment where she's leaning back with her back on his leg, but as they kind of do a little cool skid spiral ish moment, not a spiral, but a skid moment in a circle. There's so many individual turns, but it still looks super, super synchronized throughout. My favorite part is that we have the music building up to the large, big chorus. And then we see this kind of really cool rotational lift that just looks impossible. He holds her and then he twists her around and he twists her around the other way. It's just so cool, and they have an iconic knee slide moment to this dramatic death. So they're in their purple outfits, then they both die, they both lay down on the ice. And that was a very obviously a very quick summary of what is in this Bolero program. But I really do think if you have not watched Torvill and Dean's Bolero, I think you really do need to watch it. It's one of those performances that it comes from 1984, yet it's just you could tell me it was from today, I would believe you. It's out of this world, I really gotta say. It's so contemporary. It's very much out of the world, out of the box, that we don't. I feel like we haven't seen this style for a while. It's this very interesting take. Bolero being a classical piece of music, a very iconic classical piece of music, and they're doing a very contemporary take on it that I think is very good. There's so many things to compliment in this program. I think it would take like 10 program of the week segments just to fully explain and flesh out how much like enjoyment I get from watching it, how much enjoyment other people get for watching it. Um and I just think it's an example of a perfect program. Like you cannot be more perfect than this. And the judges did quite agree. Back then they were using the 6.0 system in figure skating, where the highest score you could get in technical was a 6.0, the highest score you could get in artistry was a 6.0. Nine judges out of nine, I believe. I think it was nine judges out of nine gave them a 6.0 for the artistry mark. So they got full points on artistry, and then on the technical score, they got three 6.0s, and then most of that, the other ones were 5.8s and 5.9s. And, if you think about that in the context of today, like, if perfect scores in artistry would mean perfect components. You get 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 across the board for components. And then most of your technical elements would be, 4 or 5 GOE across the board as well. Which, thinking about today, that would like never ever happen, right? But that program was just so fascinating and so enthralling that the judges loved it so much. It was perfect in almost everything. The artistry was perfect, the emotion was there, the connection, the chemistry, it was just so good. And they've gone on to perform the program many, many, many times on show tours and everything. They performed it recently at their very last show, obviously, as their final goodbye. But this is again one of those. It's a program that I don't think any other program will ever like exceed in how iconic it is, specifically to Torvill and Dean. There's a lot of skaters I feel like Kim, for example, that I've done an episode on, who have a lot of iconic programs that make sense, like Adios No Nino and Concerto in G or F, I can't remember. She has her Sun in the Clouds. She has her James Bond. She has her Moulin Rouge. You know, Kim has a lot of popular programs, but and skaters like Yuzuru Hanyu, for example, has his Saimai program. He has his Chopin program. He has his Parisian Walkways program, his Romeo and Juliet, his Swan exhibition, etc. Like a lot of iconic programs for those skaters, but there is no program I feel like that is just so astronomically popular as Torvill and Dean's Bolero from 1984. I really do think that you cannot find a program that has so much love for it and so many people that still remember. Even people I feel like that aren't huge figure skating fans, if they were, maybe alive around this time, they would know this program for sure. I believe this was one of the, at the time in the UK where they're from, a lot of people streamed on television or went on television to go watch Torvill and Dean perform this in 1984 in Sarajevo. Um, it's a cultural phenomenon and it's shaken very much. I think that the whole point of figure skating. I think skaters are really constantly looking to make these iconic programs, and I really do think that Torvill and Dean have kind of the monopoly on that. They've won the big bank with this Bolero program. Is that I don't really know if we're ever gonna find another program that is just so iconic. I really do have to say maybe that Katarina Witt and her Carmen program is a close second. Another, again, a very, very popular program. I really do think that, that could hold some tea to Torvill and Dean, but I really do think that Bolero with Torvill and Dean, like I've said a million times already, is just such an iconic program. I don't think there is any other program that is just so iconic and so intertwined with its skater. Like I said, the music Bolero is just always connected to Torvill and Dean. Oh, Torvill and Dean did this, Torvill and Dean did that. Obviously, other skaters can use it. Obviously, they add their own spin to it, but there's always that memory. I feel like, and a lot of people of, oh, this is a Torvill and Dean. I remember Bolero. I remember them skating purple outfits, etc. Anyway, so that was their 1984 Olympic success. They won the gold medal in Sarajevo, and then they kind of retire. They're not retired from skating at all, like completely, but they're retired from competing in at Worlds, Europeans, Olympics, that kind of thing. So after 1984, they've won the gold medal. They end up doing a lot of tours around the world, a lot of TV promotions. They go to Australia, they go abroad here, they go abroad there. I believe they go tour in the US. It's just this huge, again, a cultural phenomenon around them. They start a bit of a choreography career as well. Specifically, Christopher Dean does a choreography career, which is, great for him. And then we discussed this back in the Katarina Witt episode as well. But the ISU in 1992 and 1993 and 1994 said that if you're a professional skater, who is not, who is, what is it? What's the correct phrasing of it? Who is interested in competing again. If you're a professional skater who retired in quotation marks and you want to come back, there's a loophole basically that you can come back and you can come back and try to compete at the Olympics. And so Torvill and Dean hear of this and they take advantage of this opportunity. And so they come back in the 1994 season, 10 years after their Olympic gold. They come back and they decide, we want, I guess, one more shot at this. And the ISU has given us one more shot at this, and they end up coming back to compete. A lot of other skiers did as well. If you recall, Brian Boitano did this, Kenner Witt, as I mentioned, did this. A lot of skaters went through this loophole kind of rules in order to gain entry back into the Olympics and represent their country again, which is always obviously a huge deal. Torvill and Dean end up going to the 1994 Olympics in Lillehammer. I do think that a lot of people had that hope of them becoming Olympic champions again, but it had been 10 years. The sport had changed. There was new kids on the block. There's new teams to work with, and Torvill and Dean do very very well, and they win a bronze medal, third place at the 1994 Olympics, 10 years after their Olympic success in Sarajevo, where they got the gold. But here in Lillehammer, they got third. Their programs there, the free dance was called Let's Face the Music. It's a very fun program. I think it very much has that very reflective element on their career, kind of like it reflects on their career as a whole. But yeah, that's what happened in 1994. And then after 1994, Torvill and Dean are really, really retired. Like they don't compete at all. They're really, really retired. They're like, we're actually done. Actually, it isn't until 1998 until they say that they're actually retired. They're not gonna go compete in any more what do you call it? Any more amateur competitions like the Olympics or Worlds or anything. But they still remain involved in skating. They did choreographic work here and there for a couple teams, particularly from France. I think they did work for the Duchesnays and then Anicina and Pezzerot in the 2000s. They've been shows or judges on the show Dancing on Ice, which Dancing on Ice is like an interesting show. It's basically like professional figure skaters get like paired with these celebrities, and they skate. The celebrities obviously learn how to skate. The professional figure skaters know how to do that. And they do like dancing, and they get scored and everything. And Torvill and Dean are judges on that show. But like I said in the beginning of this episode, they recently skated one more time on their farewell tour, the last date of which was July 12th in Nottingham, where they began skating together because they wanted to have that full circle moment at their home rink where they first started skating together. And yeah, and I think that really, really did make the whole kind of figure skating world cry out over Torvill and Dean. It was an amazing tour. So many people were like paying tribute to them on Instagram. They had people on Instagram, or sorry, people on the tour with them that were also on Instagram, and they professional skaters from around the world came to do it, just to kind of, I think, really much pay tribute to the legacy that Torvill and Dean left behind. So now they're actually retired. They're not competing in amateur skating. They're not going to compete or going to be in show skating anymore, though I'm still sure they're still going to be on dancing on ice. I'm still sure they're going to be involved in it in some way. A lot of skaters end up being very much, at least adjacent to the sport, still connected to the sport. Like Brian Boitano opens Boitano's Lounge at every U.S. Nationals to sell drinks, which is kind of really random, but he's obviously still connected to figure skating, for example. So I'm sure Torvill and Dean will still remain connected to the sport, because they're just very much inseparable, and they have a lot of recognition, name recognition, and they're just very much celebrities in the sport. But the most important part of this episode, and of all my kind of similar episodes where I analyze the careers of famous figure skaters, the most important thing to discuss is what we can learn from their career. And I think the main lesson is kind of obvious, and that is that strong partnerships matter. Torvill and Dean had a relationship, or they skated together for 50 years, or they remain involved with one another and in the figure skating world for 50 years. They made it a lifelong career, not only competing at the Olympics and worlds and everything, but they made a lifelong career in show skating, and now in show business with dancing on ice and all the other special things they're part of. They've had that lifelong career, and I really do think it would not have made it without their very much strong friendship. They always just seemed like they cared about one another. They were very much close to the friends, that kind of thing, like lifelong friends, that I really do think that contributed to their relationship, and that really contributed to their strong partnership, never wavering or never, and I do think that is important to know, because so many partnerships I feel like end these days because of synergy, because of relationship differences, because of friendship differences. You see every season, oh, okay, so and so broke up as a pair, or an ice dance team, they're not skating together anymore. So and so went to this person instead. So and so is looking for a partner right now. So and so retired their whole career. They said that the environment was super abusive. They said their partner was mean to them, etc. you know, Real reality is, and I always think that Christopher Dean, or Jane Torvill and Christopher Dean, had very much like the picturesque friendship between two ice dancers in their couple. They always seemed very supportive of one another. They were always very much hugging each other. They were excited for one another, and I really do think that made them stronger as a team. They genuinely seemed friends on and off the ice, lifelong friends at that. I think a lot of times these days, maybe, I don't want to speculate because I'm not a figure skater myself, but some people just exchange partners so fast that it almost feels like looking for a partner is very much a, business, proposal, business transaction kind of thing, because it's just the way it works. It's like very much a business thing these days in figure skating, trying to find the best partner for the best bang for your buck. Are they going to skate with you? And then, are they going to do well with you? If they're not doing well with you, if you guys don't connect, let's just break it off. I really do think that's kind of the attitude with a lot of figure skating these days. And seeing that is kind of unfortunate, but people like Torvill and Dean managed to have this very long, lifelong relationship that, didn't cause their relationship to break down or anything. In fact, I really do think probably as adults they probably learned to respect each other even more and consider each other lifelong friends. They've surely been together through a lot of life. The majority of their lives have been connected with one another. And so, something interesting to know, just saying, is that I really do think strong partnerships really matter in a sport where your results in ice dance and pairs, your results are completely dependent on your team and who you are. And so, whew, that was kind of a long one. But yeah, that's one of the lessons I would say is very much important to learn from that. Um, Okay. And then the next lesson I would say is that hard work also matters throughout that strong partnership. These two were, like I said, they came from a common background. They weren't super rich. They didn't have parents to support them through their skating. They were working between their skating. Like I said, Jayne Torvill was working insurance. Christopher Dean was working as a policeman. Neither of those jobs are very much related to figure skating, but working between their skating to provide for themselves financially, I think it genuinely improved their abilities as ice dancers. And striving with that hard work, they knew what hard work was. They knew what wanting to achieve their dream meant to them, and I really do think that improved their ability as ice dancers, as partners, as friends, etc. Having that common experience that both of them having to work, both of them wanting to achieve this dream, they put all their energy into this strong partnership that I really do think was accentuated by the fact that they, were in this together. They were very much in this together. They were both funding their skating careers together. And I really do think that made them better, friends for sure. And then one program can make a strong impact on the world. Like I said, Bolero is one of the most famous programs of all time. It's a strong emphasis on the field of ice dance and figure skating as as a whole sport, as a whole, reality. But yeah, that's some of the lessons that we can learn about Torvill and Dean. One lesson I do want to mention is that people should be, investing more money into skating, I guess. So that's something I always want to say because, again, like I said, these iconic moments and victories, have to happen because of some financial aid, some money. So governments, paying attention to sports funding is really good, like the Nottingham government did for Torvill and Dean. But that's not always the case. In an ideal world, skiers wouldn't have to work as much, wouldn't have to pay as much for skating. Um, and so, that's something I want to see as well, hopefully in the future. But to comment, I guess, lastly on the connections between the ice dance of Torvill and Dean's time and the ice dance of now, like examples like their Bolero program just don't feel very restricted, if that makes sense. It definitely had a lot of room for artistic components, artistic kind of elements to it. There's I really don't see a lot in the program that feels very rushed and that feels like it's a required element so that we have to do it. A lot of ICN's programs these days are, I think, very much hampered or they feel a little less special because these elements are all required. You got to get all 10 of them, 12 of them in. You got to get all your choreo stuff in. You got to get your spin in. You got to get 3 lifts in or 1 lift and 2 lifts that are like part of the same one in one element, or you got to get your 1 foot step sequence in, and then you got to focus on your artistry. I really do think sometimes that we should go back to more, a little bit lax, a little bit lazier time with or rulings, and a lot of more, how do you say, a lot more looser regulations. Sometimes I really wish there was, sometimes a separate artistic category because I understand that yes, the ice sensitorable indeed would not hold up today technically at all. There's no major twizzles in it. There's no, the lifts are, they probably won't get any levels, probably get a base level, and they, you know what I mean? But artistically, I really do think they've not controlled, they've really contributed to it. The culture of ice as a whole, they've shown where you can take ice dance in an artistic kind of adventure in that way, and really went with that as their big, big, big kind of thing. Today, obviously, ice dance still has that artistry, that component side. In fact, I really do think ice dance is the most artistic discipline. But sometimes it does. Sometimes in some programs, it does feel a little bit like, okay, we gotta really focus on the technical elements, and then artistry can come up at the end. Instead, artistry is not kind of composed all the way through. Whereas in Torvill and Dean's programs, like their Bolero, artistry is just everywhere in the program, and we would love to see more of that. I feel like. But otherwise, what else can we learn about Torvald and Dean? You guys can definitely let me know more in the comments. I really do think that also, that they developed a healthy relationship with the sport. They seem like they still want to stay involved in skating, and they've been very much involved in skating. I feel like a lot of skaters sometimes the sport is like very much difficult to process, and then leaving it is very difficult, so they end up getting a whole new life completely aside from skating. And you know I really do think that for a lot of figure skaters, the ice is, where they live, it's their home. And becoming one with the ice and understanding the ice and accepting the ice, and is really the way to go. And I really do hope at the end of the day we don't see a lot of situations in which like people just hate ice, like they retire, they don't want to go skating ever again, things like that. But like I said, Torvald and Dean kind of foster that really good relationship with, I feel like, the ice, because they never felt like, they never looked like they hated doing their job. They never hated it. They never looked like they hated doing the sport and promoting the sport elsewhere. They continue to be involved in it. They continue to be in dancing on ice with a bunch of celebrities, and they seem like they really do want to spread the love for their sport more through this way and through this vessel. But yeah, so that's kind of it for that. I really do think huge thanks, huge, congratulations, of course, first of all, to Jayne Torvill and Christopher Dean for such a monumental career in which they've achieved, everything, not only in the competition sphere and the amateur skating sphere, but so much more in the professional sphere as well, contributing to very much the future of skating, encouraging people to start skating is, I do think that is going to be the main goal of sport, is not just to achieve success for yourself, but to ensure the future of figure skating and to ensure the future of people and children, of course, who skate, and to be inspired by them, etc. But yeah, really huge congratulations to Jayne Torvill and Christopher Dean for that work that they've done, and a huge thank you for them for all of it done. I cannot talk about the Bolero program enough, because I do think Bolero program is very much the most iconic program. There's no other program really like it out there that has such an iconic element to it, and that has impacted the sport of figure skating as a whole. Yeah, so go check out a lot of, Torvald and Dean's programs. Go a throwback to all their programs. They've done so many programs. Bolero is the one I mainly talked about because it's the most famous, but they've also done Mac and Mabel, Barnum, Let's Face the Music is a really popular one. There's tons of programs that they did that were super popular. So a huge thank you for them for all they contributed to the sport of figure skating, and all that I hope that they will continue to contribute to the sport of figure skating. I think they, regardless if they end their career like now and never touch skating again, they made a huge impact on this sport and everything that has gone along with this sport for sure. Anyway, that was kind of it with this episode of the Teen Talks Game podcast. My name is Mango. I hope you listened or enjoyed listening, I guess. I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about Torvill and Dean and what their legacy is and what we can learn from it, especially considering their partnership, their strong, very strong partnership, their tenacity and perseverance, and their hard work, their, huge impact on the world with their Bolero program, and reasons why we should be investing more money into figure skating. But I'm very biased, of course. Anyway, like I said in the very, very beginning of this episode, the summer is almost ending, which doesn't mean I'm going back to school, but it also means competition will start soon. So I'm very much excited. Like I said, in a few episodes, we'll already be talking about the Olympic season, all the major matchups you gotta know, everything you gotta know about qualification. I got a bunch of ideas, of course, for the Olympic season, because it's gonna be the biggest season that we've ever covered on this podcast. Which I've only covered like 1.5 seasons basically, but the Olympic season is going to be my first. Olympic season that I cover on this podcast. It's going to be super exciting. But anyway, next week's episode, if you come, go listen to it, and I hope you really, really, really will. Next week's episode is all going to be about some. It's not going to be a video essay necessarily, but it's going to be a different kind of format that I'm usually doing. But yeah, I hope you guys listen to that. It's going to be a very fun episode for sure. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Teen Toxic Game Podcast. I'll hear from you guys next week, and bye bye.